Hi guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing good. I've just popped out to Starbucks. I've come to get a white mocha frappuccino. I thought this might be a good opportunity for me to talk to you guys about my hair transplant experience. I've had 2 hair transplants now, and I feel fairly acquainted with the world of hair transplants, and I feel like I'm in a fairly decent position to be able to talk about getting a hair transplant, my experience getting a hair transplant, and just overall things about hair transplants. If you're in the market for a hair transplant, I hope, and I really do hope, this video will give you any information that you're looking for. So my journey into the world of hair transplants began on the 15th of November 2019, aged 22. Pretty young for a hair transplant, some may say. Had no hair. I had a little bit of hair. I was pretty bald. I still had the sides of my head, thankfully, and the back had a decent donut area. If you don't know, the donut area is the back of your head. To be a suitable candidate to get a hair transplant, you have to have sufficient hair in your donut area. So that is a very, very key part of the decision into if you're a suitable candidate to get the procedure or not. Everything here was pretty much non-existent. Well, it was non-existent, as you can see in the photos. So I wasn't in a good place when it came to my hair. I looked double my age, and whenever somebody would say to me, "Oh, how old are you, by the way?" You say I'm 22 or a bit younger, because I began to lose my hair when I was in secondary school. Towards the end of secondary school, I was receding. By college, it was awful, and by university, I just shaved it off. And people would go, "How old are you, by the way, Aaron?" And you would say, I don't know, 18, 19, 20. Really? And like, they'd try not to act surprised, but they thought I was like in my 40s, and I don't really blame them. I looked a lot older. I went to Istanbul for both of my procedures. I did not get them done in the UK. I went to Istanbul because it is considerably cheaper. 2019, I got in touch with a clinic. I can't pronounce the clinic correctly, I don't think. I'm just going to call it Esther. I'll leave the details in the description below. This was a recommendation from somebody my brother knew who had been to this clinic. He had a fantastic result, so I thought I would get in touch with the clinic and just see if there was any chance they could salvage what I had on my head. Now, before this, I got in touch with a clinic in Chelmsford in Essex, went for a consultation. They wanted about £8,000, I think, for the procedure. And that procedure, that was only half of what they eventually ended up doing in Turkey. So I got in touch with the clinic, sent them the photos. These are the photos that I sent them. They said to me that I would need between 3,000 to 3,500 hair grafts. Eventually, when I got to the clinic, it actually turned out I needed more than that, and they ended up doing 4,500 grafts. Now, if you don't know the technicalities of a hair transplant, I'm not going to go too into that because there's much better videos out there. This is just about my personal experience. But in essence, you take the hair from the donut area at the back and you plant it on top of your head. A bit more complicated than that, but that's in essence, that's how the procedure is done. But as I say, I got to the clinic. They told me that you actually need more than that, but don't worry, we're not going to charge you any extra. We'll include it all within the price, and we will just give you what you need. I ended up having 4,500 hair grafts moved from the back to the top of my head. It took a long time. I went in at, I think it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I came out at, I think it was 10 p.m. in the evening. It was a very long day. So that procedure, the first procedure cost me €2,300, and the second procedure, which I had this year, that cost me €2,300 once again. This time I had 2,300 hair grafts moved from the back to the front, and the aim of this second hair transplant was to thicken up my existing hair from my first hair transplant. In a few days, I will be approaching the 4-month mark. There hasn't been too much to talk about in terms of progress on this hair transplant because, yeah, I'm only just going into 4 months. It's not till about 6 to 8 months things really start kicking off. Full transparency, as you can see, my hair is fairly thin, but this here, this is all the area where they focused on this time. I actually had my hair cut today, which inspired me to do this video. When I had my first surgery, I was told that you would probably need definitely one more, potentially a third procedure for maximum density. Don't know if I can be bothered to go through a third procedure because it is a bit of an ordeal. It's totally worth it, but I don't know if I can be bothered. I always knew that I would have to go back for a second procedure. One of the main questions that I get asked is, did it hurt? And I promise you, it's nowhere near as bad as the photos look when you get it done. The worst bit is when they numb your head when they have to put the injections into your head to numb it. Me personally, they really hurt. My brother has also had a hair transplant. He said he didn't find that they hurt as much as I thought they did. But so I guess it depends. We've all got different pain tolerances. But for me, I found it very painful. I found it even more painful second time round than the first time round. 8 injections into the donut area, and they did about 15 up here. Oh, yeah, that hurt. But the good thing is, once the injections are done to make your head numb, you do not feel anything. And if at any point the numbness was wearing off, I could say to them, could you just give me a little bit of a top up please? And they would just numb it a little bit more. But I promise you, nowhere near as painful as what the photos look. 3 main stages to the procedure. The first one is when they get you to lay down on your face. Once they've numbed your head, they have to use this little tool. It's a bit like a puncture tool, and they have to individually take each hair graft out from the back, and that takes a long time. That isn't an enjoyable experience, not because it's painful, but just because it's boring. The whole thing's really boring. It's such a long process, but you're just laying there. Well, at least I was laying on my face for about, must have been a couple of hours on the last procedure. The one before that would have been even longer. And it just, all these parts in my face really ached, just because I don't know what this bit's called on your face, but mine are quite pronounced. And where I was laying down, they ached. I think like my nose ached, that kind of stuff. But no real pain. It's just an ache. Once they've removed all of the hair grafts, they then turn you over, make all the little cuts into your head. You're laying back like this, well, not like this, but you're laying down on a chair for that one. After they've made all the incisions, they then plant each hair graft individually into your head. They are, well, where I went, they were so meticulous. I don't know how they did it, because I wouldn't have the patience to do a job like that. I would get bored within 60 seconds. When they remove the hair grafts, they have to separate them all between 1, 2 and 3s. Each hair graft can contain up to 3 hair follicles, and they separate them all. The way they position them on your head is dependent on how many hair follicles each hair graft contains. So the first procedure, that took about 10 hours, and my most recent procedure, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was out, I think, by 2 o'clock, 6 or 7 hours. What I would say though, is if I could pick, I would choose to have it later in the day, like when I had my first procedure, because by the time you get back to your hotel, you're a bit tired. It's bedtime, you know, you're gonna go to bed, you've got nothing else to do. Whereas on my second procedure, I came out in the afternoon. I had to just sit in the hotel room, obviously all afternoon, just sit there and do nothing. Obviously, and I didn't want to go to sleep, because then I wouldn't be able to go to sleep later on in the evening. But yeah, just food for thought. If you can pick, I would want to go in later, just so that when you get back, you just go to bed straight away. You'll find, if you're going abroad for a hair transplant, they tend to include most of the stuff that needs to be organised within the price of what you're paying the clinic. So my €2,300, that included the procedure, the medicines. When I say medicines, I also mean lotions, the hotel and transfers, and breakfast. The hotel was a different hotel this time, but it was very close to the clinic. It was like a 5-minute walk, if that. And same for the first procedure. That was also like a 5-minute walk to the clinic. We got picked up at the airport when we arrived into Istanbul, got to the hotel, went to bed. Next day, you get the procedure done. Day after that, flew home. So 3-day turnaround. Nice and quick. Now, I think you could easily, as long as everything goes according to plan, I think you could go on your own and get it done. But I had company. I was very fortunate that on my first hair transplant, my friend Emma came with me. And on my second hair transplant, Harry kindly came with me. So I had company. It's useful also because if you have to do any kind of bending down, picking anything up, the person can pick it up for you, or just do whatever you need to be done. You can't, once you've got the procedure done and you get back to the hotel, you just got to rest. You know, you can't be bending down, picking stuff up. You don't want the blood rushing to your head. You just kind of got to sit upright like that for hours. Something to bear in mind if you're going to go and get a hair transplant, I would let whatever hair you have grow out really long, just so that when you get to the clinic, they can see what they're working with and they can see what you have. Don't turn up there with your head shaved, because obviously they don't have a visual idea. You've sent photos, so they'll be able to reference the photos, but they won't be able to really see in person what it is they're working with. So I made a conscious effort, especially this time around, to let the existing hairs from my first hair transplant grow really long, just so they could see what they were working with. And then when I got there on the clinic day, they took some photos, shaved my hair off, and then got on with the job. Another tip I have, when you're looking at reviews, just make sure that you are reading reviews from people who've waited at least 12 months since they've had the procedure, so that you can actually gauge a genuine review from someone who has their finished end result, as opposed to getting home from the clinic and then a week later the clinic getting in touch with them saying, can you just leave us a review? And because people tend to be nice, they'll do it. If you read a 5-star review for a clinic on a hair transplant that's less than a week old, it's pretty useless. So yeah, make sure any reviews that you read are ideally at least 12 months on from the procedure. One of the really annoying things about this process is it takes a long time for the hair to start growing after. Last time it wasn't until about month 7 and 8 I noticed the biggest difference, and you can just see it thickening up and loads of different hairs sprouting, which was very exciting. But yeah, like 6 or 7 months waiting, then you start to think, oh my God, is it not going to work? Because there's no sign. But you do just have to be persistent, wait, and it will happen. Now, sleeping after a hair transplant is not fun at all. You can't lay down for at least 10 days. You have to sit up. Ideally, you're going to want to have a travel cushion around your neck, which will stop you from touching your head. You don't want it, whatever you do, you don't want to be touching the implanted area. Don't touch it, don't go anywhere near it. Same for your donut area. You want to leave it well alone just so it's got time to heal. Out of the two, definitely the implanted area up here where they plant the hairs, that's such a precious area. You've got to do all you can to avoid touching it and damaging it and that kind of stuff. When you get in the taxi to and from the hotel, make sure you don't bang your head on the taxi. I may or may not be talking from experience. And also, if you need to go to the loo on the plane, just bear in mind that in the toilet, if you're fairly tall, you've got to duck your head once you go in there. Make sure you don't bang your head on the toilet in the aeroplane. Again, may or may not be talking from experience. And also, something worth bearing in mind, I took antibacterial wipes and I wiped down the headrest on the plane where my head was going to be near, just to make sure it was as clean as it could be, because obviously aeroplanes aren't the cleanest of places. When you do go to sleep, you've got to sit upright. You can't really lay down. It is for about 10 days you can't lay down for. You have to go to bed slightly sitting up, just so that the donor area and the implanted area don't get touched during the night. On the day of the procedure and leading up to the procedure, there's a few things which you have to bear in mind. And here I had the list that I was sent. So 7 days before the procedure, no alcohol, no shisha. Shisha, is that the thing you smoke for a pipe? No aspirin and no vitamins. 3 days before the procedure, no coffee, no energy drinks and no fizzy. And on the day of the procedure, this is quite an important one, you need to wear a shirt so that you can unbutton the shirt and take it off and put it on. Don't be wearing a top, don't be wearing a jumper. God, can you imagine if they all got caught when you pulled your jumper off? Yeah, you need to wear a shirt just so that you don't have to pull anything over your head. Very important that. Take a few shirts as well. And also the other thing that I was told on the day of my procedure is to be sure that I had a decent breakfast, but make sure the breakfast didn't include any coffee or energy drinks. And for me, over in Turkey, they wanted cash in euros. I think the option was there to pay with a card, but it would have meant some expensive card fees, which I didn't really fancy paying. Something that they do warn you that is likely to happen a few days after the procedure is swelling. And boy, did I swell after my first hair transplant. I looked totally unrecognizable. I never thought I would share these photos on the internet. I've shown those who are nearest and dearest to me. This was about maybe 3 days after the procedure. This is the first hair transplant. Enormous. I was like, I don't know what I was like. I just looked awful. Look at the state of me. Quite funny though. But as quickly as I swelled up, I de-swelled, if that is a word. I don't think that's a word. That lasted for maybe like 2 days, and then on the 3rd day, it all just subsided pretty quickly. What's interesting though is on my second procedure this year, I didn't really swell at all. Maybe a tiny bit, but I didn't really, if I did, it wasn't that noticeable. Whereas on the first procedure, I looked like a whale. But on this second procedure, did not really swell too much. And I reckon it's probably because I had like half the work done. Unlike on the first procedure, they did over 4,000 hair grafts. On this one, they did just over 2,000. The swelling is totally normal. It's all part of it. What your poor head goes through, it is so traumatic for your head to go through that. I guess your head's got to react, and that's the way it reacted for me. But like I say, that's totally normal, and that is all part of the process. So don't be freaking out if you start swelling. And to combat the swelling, they do give you some tablets to take. So I was given 3 different tablets to take. Again, don't substitute this as medical advice. This is what I had to do. It could be very different for you. So do not do any of this based on what I'm telling you. Check with the professionals. But for me, I had to take antibiotics, had to take these twice a day, morning and evening. That was for 5 days after meals. The second tablet was a painkiller. That was twice a day for 5 days after meals. And the third tablet was an anti-swelling tablet. I had to take this again for a period of 5 days, and that was taken after breakfast. This third tablet, it was a little bit different in terms of the quantities that I had to take. So on the first day, I had to take 3 of these tablets. On the second day, once again, 3 tablets. Third day, 2 tablets. Fourth day, 2 tablets. Fifth day, 1 tablet. And you kind of wean yourself off the swelling tablets. Now you do also get given some shampoo and lotion, which you have to use after the procedure. This is all part of the aftercare. Here's a photo of what I was given. The lotion and shampoo, I had to begin this on the 4th day after the procedure. So I would tap the lotion gently on the transplanted area and apply it to the donor area with a very light massage. My mum very kindly helped me do this just because, as I was saying, just because you can't be like, I don't know, you can't be doing that. You need somebody else to do it for you, ideally. Allow the lotion to sit for 40 to 45 minutes. After the waiting period, you'd rinse it off with lukewarm water, and you have to make sure the water is neither too warm or too cold. And you also, very important, make sure that there isn't too much pressure coming out of the shower head or whatever you're using. It's got to be very, very gentle. Now the shampoo, once you've applied the lotion, you'd wait 45 minutes and you've got it off, you would then apply the shampoo. Unlike the lotion, with the shampoo, you'd rinse it off straight away. So as soon as you've rinsed off the lotion, then put the shampoo on and wash your hair again. The first wash, it was scheduled for the 4th day after the operation. On the 7th wash, I was encouraged to use a compress to gently rub the scabs off. It said to me after the 7th wash, you wouldn't need to use the lotion anymore, just continue with the shampoo. I did still have some scabs on me after the 7th wash, so I got back in touch with them and they told me to use the lotion for a few more days just to encourage the remaining scabs to come off. They all came off and I stopped using the lotion. I've still got some of the shampoo left, still using that. I've probably got another month or 2 left of that, I reckon, and then I will move on to something not very strong, probably like baby shampoo or something. Something they tried to sell me after the procedure as an upsell was a aftercare kit. I bought it after the first procedure, but for the second procedure I didn't buy it. I think they wanted something like 200 or 300 euros. Yeah, it included a bunch of vitamins. I take the vitamins and supplements anyway, so I think most of that I already take, and I believe, if memory serves me correct, it was like argan oil, a few serums and a few different shampoos and stuff. I personally didn't feel like it was necessary to purchase it. You could probably buy all that stuff separately for a lot cheaper, so I didn't choose to buy it. But I'll leave a link below to the shampoo and conditioner that I will eventually use 1 year on after the procedure. This is what I used beforehand. I did a fair bit of research into it, and yeah, I thought it's quite good. It doesn't really make any claims that you're going to grow your hair and whatnot, but it's just full of decent natural stuff that is good for your hair. Something else people ask is, how soon can you go back to work after getting the hair transplant? Pretty much, it depends what your job is. So if you work in, say, the construction industry and you have to wear a helmet, or you work in any other industry where you have to wear any kind of PPE like that, it's probably a little bit different because very delicate. You don't want to be putting a hard hat on top of your newly transplanted hair. For me, I'm a wedding videographer. I think it was as little as like maybe a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. So within 2 weeks, went to a wedding, filmed the wedding, and nobody batted an eyelid. They just thought I'd shaved my hair. It wasn't until I told people I've had a hair transplant, and they were like, whoa, really? Can't tell. So it is amazing how quickly the head heals. If you're a bit paranoid about going out in public or that kind of stuff, like, don't be. I mean, for the first week, I wouldn't say you should go out. You kind of, I think, stay at home, rest. You don't want to be letting any pollution from the cars and stuff get to your head. Just chill at home. If you do have to go out, wear a baseball cap. Make sure it isn't sitting tightly on the head, because again, you don't want to dislodge those grafts, but just loosely sitting on the head the first immediate days after the procedure. And if it's sunny, take an umbrella with you. You might look a bit odd, but who cares? Who cares? I did. Here's a photo just to show to you I didn't care. Walk around with an umbrella just because you don't want the UV rays to be damaging the hair grafts. It is amazing how quickly your head starts to heal, and on both occasions for me it was kind of a 3-day turnaround. I got there on the Friday, had it done Saturday, came home on the Sunday. So the following day after the procedure, as long as everything has gone according to plan, and it did for me thankfully, and anybody that I know who's had a procedure over in Turkey, they've said the same. able to get on the plane, no problem. You did used to have to get, I say used to have to get, in 2019, I was given a doctor's letter to take with me just in case I was questioned on the aeroplane or when I got to the airport, just to check that I was indeed okay to fly. But on this occasion, they didn't supply me with one of those, and I did query that, and they said that the regulations have changed and you no longer require that. So you will be fit to travel as long as everything has gone smoothly. And something also I'll just mention is if you're going to Turkey or another country and you're a little bit paranoid about getting to the airport after the procedure when you're going to fly home, you don't want to stand out like a sore thumb because you've got holes at the back of your head and all that kind of stuff. Again, who cares? Who cares? Like, people might be jealous that you've got holes at the back of your head. In Istanbul, I would almost say that if you hadn't had a hair transplant, you stood out. We were like a little army of hair transplantees. Do not worry about that. Once you get back to the UK, maybe at the airport you might get a look. I don't remember anyone really looking, but again, I don't really care. Like, if they look, they look. It's an exciting journey that that you've commenced, so who cares? I was given a list of do's and don'ts after the procedure, so I'll just run you through some of those. As already discussed, don't sleep flat on your tummy or your side because you don't want to be rubbing your hairline or any of the implanted hairs. Do not apply any ice to the transplanted area. Don't wash your hair for the first 48 hours. Don't wear any hats or ball caps for the first 3 days. This is important. Don't scratch your head. Your head will feel a bit itchy. It might feel like you've got ants crawling over your head. That is all normal, but whatever you do, don't touch your head and let it heal. Easier said than done, but yeah, just try your best not to touch your head. Don't expose your heads to any direct sunlight. If you do go out and about, take an umbrella with you. Don't engage in any heavy lifting exercises, so you need to avoid the gym. I believe it's for the first month. Don't engage in any activities that might make you sweat. Don't consume any alcohol for about 5 days after the procedure, and do not smoke for the first month after the procedure. You also want to avoid anything like swimming, saunas for quite some time after the procedure, but yeah, you'll be given a proper thorough list of do's and don'ts by your clinic. Something some people say that you should do after you've had a hair transplant, which does make sense, but not everyone can do it. You are encouraged to use, by the way, what I'm about to say again, this isn't medical advice, so do your own research, speak to professionals. I'm not a professional, but they do say it is good to take Finasteride and Minoxidil. After my first procedure, I feel like I started the Minoxidil a little bit too late. I should have started it sooner. It wasn't until like a year and a bit after I started taking Minoxidil, just to make sure, a bit like toothpaste. You know, we brush our teeth to make sure that our teeth remain healthy and whatnot. So I was starting taking Minoxidil just to make sure that the hairs I've got do stay. But I do think maybe I shed a little bit before that. I still had the hairs, obviously. I had all this, but yeah, I'm not sure if I lost maybe a little bit of hair while waiting to do that. So this time I'm going to start taking Minoxidil. Last year, however, I did sign up to a company that provided Minoxidil and Finasteride in a tablet form. So you take that, both medications in one. They are the two main proven things that do help prevent and also in some cases help you grow back your hair. I started taking the Finasteride and it was, I think, 3 months since taking it, I noticed a lump on under my nipple. Went to the doctors, got that checked out, and straight away they said there's a good chance that the tablet has caused that, and I knew that is a possible side effect of the tablet, so I have stopped taking the tablet because I don't want to be getting into uncharted waters with that kind of stuff. It's not worked for me, unfortunately, but I know for some people it does work and some people don't suffer any side effects, which is fantastic. But if you are considering it, speak to the professionals, make sure you are aware of the side effects which you can get from taking it. You can get side effects from taking any drug, so that isn't obviously unique to Finasteride, and Finasteride does have this reputation associated with it that your penis might fall off if you start taking it. Finasteride, I know it gets quite a hard time because side effects, but like I said, I experienced a side effect with my nipple. You might not, but you might, so just check with the professionals. Another question is, when can you get your hair cut? Straight after the hair transplant. You want to leave it a few months just to make sure that the hairs are growing and whatnot. You don't really want to touch any of the area which you've had implanted for at least 8 months. But I have had, this is my second haircut since my second procedure, and I've just had the sides of my head and the back of my head shaved, and I've told them on each occasion, just please could you avoid the top area of my head because all my hairs are growing back and the newly planted hairs are beginning to grow, so I don't want any razors or anything near that area. As you can see, the donut area has healed really well once again. I don't think unless you're really fortunate. I don't think if you've had a hair transplant and you've not got much hair initially, you're never going to have a full, thick head of hair unless you've got an amazing donut area and you can get quite a few procedures. I don't think you're never going to have the hair you had when you were younger, and you've kind of got to accept that because that is all part of aging, isn't it? And I read it somewhere, there was a quote I saw, but basically a good hair transplant is giving you the illusion of having a full, thick head of hair. And in certain lighting, like now, my hair probably looks quite full, but if I was to look down, you can see it's thin. But this is after my second procedure, and hopefully this time next year I will have much thicker hair. I guess what I'm saying is you've got to manage your expectations. Depending on your donut area, you'll have to decide where you want to invest the hairs that you've got. For me, on my second procedure, I really wanted to thicken up my hairline here and obviously thicken up here, but I got there and they said, realistically, because we don't want to damage your donut area, we don't want to over harvest it, we can't really take more than 2,500 hair grafts, and it's up to you where you want them, so like on your hairline or the back of your head. Over the past 2 years, I've been most conscious of here. In certain lighting, you can't really see it right now, but in certain light it does look quite thin and you can see it's transplanted. The main thin area was here, so I said to them, we'll just thicken up the existing area at the back. They did say if they had any left over, they would plant some here, but there wasn't any left over. The communication with my clinic, they were fantastic. Any questions that I've had or any questions leading up to the surgery, they were super quick to get back to me. My main point of contact spoke fantastic English, and if I had any questions at the clinic, any questions with the surgery team, if there was a little bit of a language barrier, and by the way, they spoke, we could communicate what we needed to communicate, we could communicate the essential stuff, but if there was anything they didn't quite understand what I was saying, they would just go and get my point of contact. He would come in the room and translate for me. Guys, I think I've waffled on for quite some time. I think I've covered I've certainly covered most of the stuff I normally get asked when people ask me about my hair transplants, but please, if there's anything that I've not answered, leave me a little comment below and I will try my best to get back to you. But I really do hope this video has been useful if you're considering getting the procedure done. It is one of the best decisions I have ever made to go and get the surgery. That, and I had laser eye surgery a few weeks ago, and that's also been, so far, fantastic result. That's also been one of the best things I've spent money on. But certainly my hair transplant it's just made me look more my age. From a vanity point of view, I think I look better now than I did before. It's given me extra confidence. It's just it's amazing what hair does. I don't think I'd have been able to have had 2 procedures done in the UK. It would have been too expensive. Like I said, the first procedure alone, they wanted about £8,000, and that was for half of what they did on the first procedure. For both my procedures, it's been about £3,900 if you were to put them both together. And like I said, that's half of the cost of just the first quote that I had in the UK. So for me, Turkey was a absolute no-brainer, but just do your research. The flights as well, by the way, they were around about, I think, £200 from London to Istanbul. I paid a little bit extra this time round because I wanted extra legroom, so I paid for extra legroom. On the subject of booking tickets, the planes and all that kind of stuff, you will need a check-in bag because you'll be given lotions and shampoo that you need to bring back to the UK for your aftercare. You could potentially transfer the lotions from the bottles they provide you to 100ml bottles. I personally think that's a little bit of palaver, and I wouldn't really want to risk wasting any of it. So I just bought a check-in bag and yeah, just go with that. But that's what I did, so just bear that in mind. Anyway guys, I have waffled on for a considerable amount of time. I've got no doubt that there will be loads of important bits and bobs that I've not mentioned. So as I said, if there is anything I've not spoke about, please do feel free to leave a comment below and I will try my best to get back to you. If you fancy subscribing, I do appreciate that enormously, so thank you in advance if you do. If you do subscribe, you'll be able to see the progress of my hair journey, and yeah, we'll be able to see where I am in a few months' time and even years, so you'll be well in the loop on how I'm getting on. I'm not in a position yet to be able to recommend the clinic based on my most recent procedure. I'm going to wait at least 12 months, but the first procedure I had, I couldn't recommend the clinic enough, and fingers are firmly crossed that this time round it will be the exact same. Anyway guys, thanks again for watching, take care, and I hope to see you soon on my next video. Cheers guys.